Evaluating functions is a fancy way of saying plug some number in for x and simplify. And that's what we're going to do here with the numbers 2, 5, and -1. So let's look at these one at a time. First, let's take 2 and plug it in our f of x function everywhere there's x. That's going to look like this. The f of x, or of course if we put in our 2 for x, equals 2 to the 4th minus 2 times 2 to the 3rd plus 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 7. Notice I've put all of these 2's in parentheses, and that's really best practice. It'll make more of a difference when we look at negatives in a second. And so all we have to do to evaluate this function is to simply simplify the right side here. And so to find the f of 2, we just have to do that. So 2 to the 4th is 16. If we do 2 to the 3rd, we're going to get 8, and we can multiply that times 2, and we'll get minus 16. 2 squared plus 4. 3 times 2 minus 6 plus 7. And so we can simplify this. Again, remember to work from left to right. So we'll do 16 minus 16, that's 0, plus 4, that's 4, minus 6, that's -2, plus 7, that gets us 5. And so what we would say is that the f of 2 equals 5. And that would be evaluating our function for an x value of 2. Let's do the same with this 5, and I'll change colors to do that. So if we want to evaluate our function for 5, or find the f of 5, we're going to replace x everywhere in our function with 5. So this is a slightly larger number, and of course you can use your calculator to help you out if you have one. We're going to get 5 to the 4th, which is going to be 625. Okay, 5 to the 3rd is 125. So if we multiply that times 2, we're going to get minus 250. 5 squared is 25. 3 times 5 is 15. And plus 7 doesn't change. And so if we add this up from left to right, we should get that the f of 5 is equal to 392. Again, it's okay to use your calculator to check your work here. In our last question here, we're asked to find the f of -1, or evaluate our function, the f of x function up here, where x is -1. And so if we do that, we're going to get the f of -1 equals -1 to the 4th minus 2 times -1 to the 3rd plus -1 squared minus 3 times -1 plus 7. And I said earlier in the video that it's really important that we put parentheses, especially when we plug in a negative x. And so here, when we have a -1 in parentheses, if the exponent's even, this will simplify to a +1. Here, we have a -1 in our parentheses here to an odd exponent. That's always going to get us a -1. So we're going to have -2 times -1. That's going to get us +2. Continuing with -1 squared. Again, that's an even exponent on a negative. We're going to get +1. And here we get a -3 times -1. That should be +3. The 7 doesn't change, and we're ready to simplify. So to find the f of -1, let's go ahead and add from left to right. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4, 7, 14. So the f of -1 is 14. Again, please be careful when you are plugging in a negative for x.